I'm Doyle Williams, the Dean of the Salmon Walton College of Business. It's my pleasure to introduce today's special WCOB's presentation of Meet the Entrepreneurs. We're honored to have as our special guest today Mr. Frank Fletcher, CEO of Frank Fletcher Companies Limited. Upon receiving his Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration degree in Marketing from the University of Arkansas, Mr. Fletcher worked in a factory as a sales representative, and he worked for a number of companies supplying hardware products and houseware products to national mass merchants and mass retail chains, including Walmart. He developed and still owns several manufacturing companies that sell products to the largest retail chains in the country. In 2000, the Walton College of Business presented Mr. Fletcher with the Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Mr. Fletcher will be questioned by 3 student members of the Walton College. Kristen Jessup is a sophomore marketing major from Benton, Arkansas. Dan Oberste is a senior finance and economics major with a communications minor, and he's from Little Rock, Arkansas. And finally, Amber Hiryak is a sophomore marketing major from Stuttgart, Arkansas. So let's begin the questions. Our panelists, Kristen, let's begin with you with the first question for Mr. Fletcher.
Okay, Mr. Fletcher, you have a very impressive list of businesses. What motivates you to put forth your best effort?
I think I need to put my best effort each and every time, because I have associated myself with a lot of great people who are involved with our company. I've talked them into joining me, and most of them are a lot smarter than I am, so it's my job to make sure the company does well so they're happy with their employment and we don't have any turnover.
How would you define best effort?
I think I have to show that I'm totally involved. I try to be wherever I need to be first and foremost every morning, stay there after everybody else goes home. And I go out and sell cars on Saturday, and everybody asks me why do I not play golf, and I go, because I'd rather sell cars and watch what you're doing.
Okay. Dan, question from you.
Mr. Fletcher, I guess you're such a busy man, and looking back on your accomplishments, they all occurred, around this, in the past in a short period of time. And I was wondering, how do you manage to balance your time between, work and family and fun? How do you do that?
Well, it's been over a long period of time, but my office is in my home, so I get to see my family throughout the day. I don't go to we have, of course, corporate offices, but I've always chosen to have an office in my actual home that I reside in. My family's pretty involved. My son heads up our automobile company, and my daughter is here with me today at the university, and she is very interested in our horse racing business, so she travels with me all over the country, and we go night and day on weekends or wherever we're racing. So I keep my family close and involved with what we're doing, and we do a lot of fun things together, but we also work as much as we can.
Okay. Amber?
Mr. Fletcher, what do you think is the key to being a successful entrepreneur?
I think the main ingredient is you have to decide early on if you want to be a risk taker or not. Risk taking is something that's not for everyone. I think that some people decide that when I say risk taking, I mean actually risking whatever savings you have, or if you have anything accumulated. If you're going to a new business, sometimes you have to risk it all. You want to make sure when you start that your risks are small and pretty safe. As time goes along, you take more risk and hope that over 50% turn out good. But some people actually don't want to put everything on the table and say, I'm willing to lose it all. And to be an entrepreneur, you either have to have that spirit, or you have to decide you'd rather someone else take the risk.
Okay. Kristen, do you have another question?
I do. Who or what in your life would you say influenced you the most with regard to your career objectives?
That's a pretty easy question to answer. Mr. Sam Walton influenced me. As of today, I'm trying to operate the businesses that we have in the hotel and the restaurant and the automobile business. I'm trying to apply the philosophies that Mr. Walton taught me. I met him when about 2 years after I graduated from University of Arkansas at store number 2 in Harrison, Arkansas. And I've spent a lot of time around Mr. Walton. I was one of about 6 people outside of Walmart who was invited to his funeral, and I felt very honored to be there. I've got numerous letters from Mr. Walton. We corresponded over the years over different projects that he wanted to see accomplished, and I'm showing those to my grandchildren with a lot of pride. And when I say how he influenced me, Mr. Walton had a real simple but successful philosophy, and that was get the price lower, 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 and make sure the customer gets the full benefit of that. And that's why Walmart is what it is.
Okay, very good question. Dan?
Well, my economics professor just told me that we're in kind of a sketchy economy right now. And I was curious, how's the state of the current economy affected the automobile industry in particular? I guess more specifically, how are the low interest rates and the deals that the company, financing deals that they provide? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, after 9/11, we were really worried because we weren't selling anything. I mean, everybody kind of was in shock, and General Motors led the way with the 0% interest for 60 months, which was unheard of. So people flocked into our dealership, and that quarter we had the best season of selling that we had had in 10 or 15 years, when it should have actually been the worst. So 0% interest was a wonderful kickstart, and a lot of people who normally would come in and pay cash for a car, if they had that ability, would get a 0% loan, take the $20,000 that they would normally have invested and put it in the stock market as some of the investment, because it was very inexpensive money. At 0, you can't get much better than that. And as time's gone along now, that's not as exciting to the public as it once was. The big thing that stirs business now are incentives. And the incentives started off at $500 and $1,000, and now we're up to, we have some vehicles that have $4,500 in rebate. And why that's important is a large majority of the people that come in to trade cars are what we call upside down in the industry. And that means they owe more on their trade-in than it's worth. So our job to get them financed is to be able to pay off their old car and then get the finance company to refinance the next car. So we take the rebate money and make up the difference of what their car is worth today versus what they owe. So we kind of get them back to even, and we're able to get them financed. So incentives are a way of life. The manufacturers don't like it, but none of them are backing off of it.
I guess with more and more people taking the 0% interest for 60 months, do you think that maybe that could be a problem in the future again, with people coming in with cars that are worth less than they owe on it?
Well, no, really what's happening now is a lot of people are a little bit confused because of advertising. It's really 0% 60 months, or you get this incentive. You don't get both. Now, there are a few cases where it's both, but it's not the big incentives. So most people have to choose whether they want the 0% and pay what we would term a higher price, or whether they want to accept the incentives. They can accept the incentives, which most do, and then they get a low rate of financing, like 3.9, for instance, from Honda. We have a 3.9 rate, and different manufacturers have different rates, and it all depends on your credit rating. If your credit rating is good, you qualify for that rate. If your credit rating is not so good, you might have to pay 6% and on up. But so what's happening now is, back before we had 0%, there was a lot of 10%, 8% money, but now you can get good financing for between 3 and 5%, and then get the $4,500 or the $3,000 off. So people are taking the low interest rate, not necessarily the 0 rate, and the big incentive. So that's kind of what's driving business now.
Has the leasing business expanded or contracted during this period of time with these kinds of programs?
It's contracted, Dean, quite a bit. We still do some leasing, but leasing is good for a business because you can charge it off easier. But the problem with leasing is there are a limited number of miles you can drive per year, and that's kind of the drawback. And so people now are doing more straight out purchasing.
Okay. Amber, you have another question.
What are some things that you like and dislike about owning your own business?
I can't think of what I dislike. I think I receive a lot of benefit and pleasure out of seeing success. I think one of my most fun things to do is to hire somebody young, promise them that if they will work hard, and they look at you real strange, what do you mean work hard? I mean, come in at 6:30 and stay till 6:30, work on Saturdays, give up everything, and then see that person really prosper and really move up well and do extremely well. That gives me a lot of pleasure, and I've had it asked before, why don't you take it easy? Why don't you play a little golf? Why don't you go to Hawaii? And really and truly, it's my commitment that if I met you and I was able to talk you into coming to work for me, it's my commitment that I've got to make this business better and better, or otherwise you've chosen the wrong person to go to work for. So I get a lot of benefit out of seeing the success of people grow.
Very good. Kristen.
Going along with that, what type of qualities are you looking for when you're hiring a new employee?
Kristen, I'm really looking for what that person's goals are. You know, I've had interviews, as funny as this may sound, and the young person say, where's my parking place and when do I get 2 weeks vacation? And we usually terminate our interview for that reason. And that sounds like a joke, but I actually have had that happen, you know. So I like to have an interview where you would say to me, where can I expect to be in 5 years? You know, what do you expect me to do in this job? And I would probably say to you, you really have picked the wrong company instead of the right company, because I would try to discourage you a little bit about going to work for us, because I would tell you all the things I expect, and then if you still were interested in that, I'd be more interested in you. I had a young man who's with us now who heads our office up in Bentonville for Walmart. His name is Kurt Lynn, and he went to school here, and he came to meet me, and I said, Kurt, you don't want to go work for me because I'm going to work you to death. And he said, well, I'm ready. I want to do anything. And he actually started out in the warehouse, and he loaded trucks, and today he is our representative for our lamp company to Walmart. He's in a great spot. He represents us very, very well. Today, as we speak, he's in China with Walmart people, and I'm proud to have him, and he's like a gem that we've uncovered, because he was willing to work very, very hard. You'll hear this over and over again, work hard, but there are a lot of people today who expect a 40-hour work week. I have an education, I'm smart, I don't need to work anything except 40 hours a week. Well, those people are probably not going to be real successful.
Okay, very, very good insight. Dan?
Well, Mr. Fletcher, I was wondering, I tell you, I love making mistakes because I always learn more from my mistakes than I do from my successes. I was wondering, have you made any big mistakes along the way in the last few years, and maybe if you could go back and change anything, would you?
Well, yes, I have. A lot of my friends say, Frank, everything you touch turns to gold, and I like to then say what I'm going to say to you. Let me explain to you about some gold. It wasn't gold. I've made some mistakes, but as I said before, I am a risk taker. I am a dreamer. I'll give you a couple examples. I had a good friend of mine, Jerry Hammer, who owned all of the Wendy's in Arkansas, and so he and I ran around together, and he told me about how Wendy's came to be, that McDonald's didn't have the order as you like deal. So through Jerry's friendship and told me about how Wendy's prospered, I decided that Taco Bell at this point in time did not have drive-in windows. They didn't have cheese dip. They didn't have things that I thought were important. So I decided I was going to be a new national chain of taco stands. So I made a terrific mistake by naming my new business Casa Especial, which no one could pronounce or say or remember. So one of the things is when you pick a name, don't pick a name that's hard. So that was my first mistake. So we opened up this place right next to Jerry's Wendy's in North Little Rock. And I went to Mexico and bought a roof and all kind of tile, really did it upright, and had a drive-in window. And we decided we wouldn't do Tex-Mex food as they know it in this part of the country. We'd do the stringy type beef like they have in California.
Right.
Well, I learned first thing is people in Arkansas don't want California food. They want Tex-Mex food. So I had the wrong kind of food. My first day we opened, with our drive-in window. We were so proud of it, and I don't know whether this happened by accident or by mistake, but one of my guys or girls dropped a nickel into the taco, and the guy put it in his mouth and broke off his two front teeth, and I owed him $75,000 on my first day after we got out of court.
Expensive nickel.
So the nickel, I don't know how the nickel got in the taco, but it did break his teeth. And after I'd lost a considerable amount of money, I closed down Casa Especial, and I learned a lesson that I made several key mistakes there. But luckily, as long as you bat about 90%, you can keep going.
How was the cheese dip? Was it pretty good?
Cheese dip was darn good.
You've told our students when you met with some of the classes about how you got into the hotel business. That wasn't by design, if I recall that story. Would you mind taking a moment to share that story?
I can't believe you remember that story. I was in a little investment breakfast club, and we all put in like $100, and we decided to make an investment. A guy came to us, and he said, we can buy this land over by the river, and it's cut up into a lot of sections, has streets in it. We close these streets.
This was in North Little Rock.
Little Rock. I'm sorry,
North Little Rock, yeah.
And we learned that if you close the street, that the land around the street became the property, and so we get the city to close the streets, and we had us a nice piece of land. So that was what we invested our money in. The guy comes along and says, I own 25 Hiltons. I'm the largest franchise holder in the world. I want to build a hotel. We need you guys to donate the land to us, and we'll give you a percentage of the hotel. So I did. Some of the guys got out of the deal because they didn't want to be involved. So I wound up with 5% of this hotel, no money down, just my land that we had put the money in. So as we got like one of those 16% loans back when interest was high, and we didn't make our projections, and that make a long story short, about 11 years later, I wasn't involved in the hotel, really didn't know what they were doing. I just know I owned 5% of it. This guy calls me up and he says, do you know who the RTC is? And I said, I'm not sure. And he said, well, we're in form of the federal government, we're in Kansas City, and we're suing you for $11 million. And I said, well, sir, you got the wrong person. I don't own the 5%, and if I have to pay $550,000, I might sell off everything I've got and pay you. He said, no, sir, you're going to pay us $11 million because you signed a thing called joint and several. I think that's what Dean Williams remembered. When I come to a class now, I always write the word joint and several on a blackboard and put, if you ever see these two words, don't sign it.
Joint and several liability.
Right,
Yeah.
which I didn't know what that was. They didn't teach me that at university. So
We teach that now.
you do, I did, good. So I really had signed a tight partnership that I didn't understand, and what it meant was is in that kind of partnership, they can take you, if you own 1% or 90%, they can sue whoever they like to, and they can let the rest of the people go. So make a long story short, not making it too short, I decided that after much negotiation that I bought out the other guys and made a settlement with the RTC, and now I wound up with a hotel that I didn't know how to operate, and I really didn't know much about it, but it's turned into a very successful venture, and I really applied what I knew from traveling. You know, when you go to the front desk, the people speak to you by name. Do you get a big television with a sleep control, and how's the food? And so those are the kind of things that we applied to this hotel, and we're lucky we've been pretty successful.
And Hotel Arena, did that help when it came nearby?
It did help. We're the Wyndham Hotel in Oberste, right next to the Hotel Arena, and we've had a lot of fun with it, Dean. We get to rock concerts, and we've had some really famous people stay there, and that's been a lot of fun, and they've really been surprisingly very nice. I'll tell you one quick story. Janet Jackson came there, and we have a policy of no dogs in our hotel for the purpose of not having fleas. Okay. So just as the bus were arriving, the person that was taking care of Janet Jackson said, let them know that she has a dog and he's going to be in her room. And we said, you can't do that. You know, we have a policy of no dogs. And they said, well, just figure out how we can do it. And I said, the only way you can do that is we'll have to change all the carpet in the room if you want to pay for that instead of just a room. And they agreed to it. So we fed the dog with our maintenance company and maintained the dog, and then we changed the carpet after she left.
Okay, very good. Amber, another question from you.
What is one of the hardest decisions that you've ever had to make?
A business decision?
A business decision.
I don't really know how to answer that because I've never thought of a real hard decision. Some decisions are more difficult because they involve more risk. I guess the hard decisions are you going to take a gamble or not? And for instance, I'll just give you for instance, a hard decision to make is looking at a piece of land that's just got water on it and it's no good, and trying to envision, if an interstate comes down here like somebody says it's going to, what kind of property could this be if you bought it now when it's fairly inexpensive? But that's just a gigantic risk. And so sometimes I spend a few hours looking at the ceiling at night thinking about whether to do it or not. And those are the hard decisions.
Okay. Kristen?
What would you say you learned from your college experience that you see being carried over today in your business life?
I'm glad you asked me that question because I think it's so important if you're going to live in this state or nearby this state to go to school at the University of Arkansas here in Fayetteville, because what was such an advantage to me was that I am dealing today with the people that I went to school with. And I think it's just critical that you keep up with, when you graduate, that you get more than one phone number, you get 5 phone numbers of each and every person, because the people you meet now, you will more likely be associated with in business and maybe socially. But the young man who invests every nickel I can make, I went to school with, I'd never met him. He works for Merrill Lynch now, and that was a contact I made here. He's done wonders for me. And I think the university provided me with some knowledge of living on my own and making decisions to go to class and to graduate. And I graduated by fear. I graduated in 4 years. My father did not go to college, and he owned a farm, and I had driven a tractor a lot. And he sent me to college, and he said, if you don't graduate in 4 years, you're going back to the farm, you'll be on the John Deere the rest of your life. Yes. So college was good for me, and I look back now at my age, the 4 greatest years of my life.
Sure, great. We've heard from many of our alumni that networking is very important, and coming to the University of Arkansas starts that process for you that serves you as you've testified throughout one's career. If you're going to be in business in Arkansas, you need to come to the Sam Walton College of Business.
You really do. I think that's the message that we'd like to send to everyone. It's just critical.
Okay. Dan, you have another question?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to take all this in. I guess, what are some of the better qualities that you're seeing that are coming out of students graduating as of late, and what are some of the qualities that maybe students should be working on?
Well, I think people are more serious now, Dan. I think they take their future more seriously than they did back in my time. I think jobs are not as plentiful as they used to be. And I think the last year or two of college, the young people that I meet are getting serious about what they're going to do when they graduate. I think they're taking their studies more seriously because it's a very competitive world when you graduate, the competition that you're going to have. I like to say that, Dan, you've chosen to go to college. You separated yourself from a majority of people you went to high school in just by that choice. Then you've really separated yourself on the ladder of success by finishing, going on and finishing college and doing well. Because each step you take up that ladder is you're leaving the masses behind, because you are continuing to strive for excellence. So when you graduate from school, I feel like you have really made some big steps yourself, and then you just have to get that attitude of, I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to be the best associate someone could ever get. I'm not going to be second best or best, and you can do it.
Great advice.
It will be a milestone.
Okay.
It'll be a miracle if I graduate.
Okay.
You're almost there.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, where do you see yourself going from here? Do you plan on opening more businesses, or?
Yes, I do. My family would like to put a muzzle on me and slow me down a little bit. But yeah, I do see myself. I'm looking at some new businesses as we speak, and the reason is really and truly I want to do more. I want to give more people opportunity, and I also like the challenge of getting into some different business, totally different from what I'm trying to talk my daughter in now to going to China and bringing in accessories for automobiles, such as aftermarket wheels and stuff that we could all use. And so I always like to think of a new business, and it, hopefully it's related to something, but if not, it's just something to wake up every morning, get out of bed, and be very excited about. This is going to be a bigger challenge than yesterday.
On a hectic day, how do you manage your time on an unusually hectic day?
Well, glad you asked me that. I have an assistant lady that works for me, and she manages my time. She tells me what time I will be in the office, and I will sign this stack of papers by 8:15, and that so-and-so is going to come over at 9 o'clock, and you have a conference call at 10, and you better get this done or else. So I really like to help and manage my time, because time management is crucial.
I'd like to ask a question that we haven't touched on here today, that's in the news a lot, of course, with a lot of the business scandals that we've been reading about, and that's your view of the role of ethics in business and trustworthiness and public confidence. Would you comment a bit about that and how important that would be for our students that are preparing to go into business?
Well, I think it's just very important that we all revalue what we're going to do to be successful. Are we going to cheat? Are we going to shade things? Or are we going to do it the right way? And the good thing that's come out of the bad things that have happened is that I think the students and the public in general are fed up with the greed and with the unethical action. And if I've had any success, it's because I've built a good reputation myself and tried to show good character. And I think it's just crucial that we show the public that we're trying to operate in the right way.
What advice would you have for students as they start out, as a final closing comment here?
I think that you need to make a plan. What do you want to be doing in 5 years? I like to take things in 5 years, and that's a long time, but where do you want to be in 5 years? And is this job going to take me to that point? And then just be devoted to it, and you see an opportunity to take an idea after you've worked for someone for a year or two and start your own company, I encourage you to do that.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. We're delighted to have you here as part of our program today. Unfortunately, we're coming near the end of our time, and we really appreciate so much you taking this opportunity to share with us your insights. I know those watching this program will enjoy hearing your observations, and certainly will be very valuable to us here in the Walton College. We appreciate you being part of Meet the Entrepreneurs program that we sponsored, and we look forward to you coming back to the Walton College and back to the campus in the years ahead. You've certainly been a great asset in speaking to our students. Thank you for watching. Our program was produced by the Walton College and directed by Jim Goodlander. So from the Sam M. Walton College of Business television studios, we thank you for being with us for this program.